When I prepare art to animate in Flash, sometimes I draw the artwork in Flash and sometimes I draw art by hand and then I trace over it after I scan it in Illustrator. And to do this, what you're going to do when you enter Illustrator is go to the File menu and choose Place, and that will open up this dialog box. From here, you can choose the file that you're going to trace, and I'm going to choose a JPEG called toastdudeparts.jpg. I'll select this, click Place, and the image that I scanned in from Photoshop and now appears in Illustrator. Now what I'm going to do so I can more easily trace this image is I'm going to go to my layer here, my images, and I'm going to double click on this layer. And now I can name this template because I want this to be a little bit dim as I work. So I'll click template and then it will automatically select for me dim images, and I can enter a number here if I so desire. But 50% should be dim enough so I can see it. Now I'm going to lock this layer, create a new layer, and I'm going to start tracing the character. So we'll start off with, let's see here, we'll start off with this foot. And I'll just call it foot. And we'll say left. And click OK. Now I'm going to zoom in with the magnifying tool here on this foot. And now I'm going to select my pen tool. And I'm going to make sure I have no stroke here. And you can do this very easily by clicking this icon. And that will turn off any fill rather instead of stroke. I want to have a black stroke here and no fill. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to draw. I want to make sure I'm on the right layer. I'm going to just go ahead and click. And I'm going to click here. And I'm going to drag the mouse to give myself a curve for the beginning of this character's boot. And now I'm going to click on the point I just finished drawing. And I'm going to click here and pull. I'm going to click on the last point again. And I'm going to click here and pull. Clicking on the last point allows me to change direction. See, if I don't click on this point, I just go over here to start drawing, I'm going to get this big loop here. I don't want that. So I'll Command Control Z that, click on this point, and now I can have more control over the curve. Now you don't always want to change direction, only when you have a drastic change to make. For example, here, I have pulled out the bottom of his shoe, but now if I go over here to click, I'm going to get a shape that I really can't control too much unless I grab the direct selection tool, and now I can move this down like so. I'll go back to my pen tool, I'll click here again, and I'll close this shape. Now I'll go back to my direct selection tool, click on this point and move it up just a little bit like so, and now I'll click on this handle and I'll pull it like this so I can fill this shape out, and I will round this out a little bit as well. Don't worry about being too precise because, you know, it is a cartoon and we don't need to worry about realism here. For these parts here, I usually draw these separately, and I have another layer that I usually draw called, you know, lines, for example. But I'm going to keep drawing this foot. I'm going to go here now. I'm going to click and drag my mouse. Click on this point to change direction, and click again. And click and click. Now, this part can actually overlap a little bit because it's going to be behind the boot when I fill it in. For example, if I give this part of the character a toasty color, like let's say like a dark brown, I can then send this part to the back by going to my Object menu, Arrange, and then Send to Back. And now when I color in his boot, and we'll give it a nice, I guess, let's see here, blue, it's now in front of this part. Let's go ahead and undo that move. And now I can, if I choose to, on another layer, draw the lines, but I'll just draw them here for now. I'll go and click here and drag. And then what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to hold down to change the tool very quickly back to the selection tool on the keyboard, the Control or Command key, and watch what happens to the pen tool on the keyboard. It turns to the selection tool. So I can click on the desktop, or rather in the screen or drawing area, and then when I let go of that key, my pen's back, and I can continue to draw. Now, if I don't do that, watch what happens. I'll click, drag, and then I'll move my mouse, and I'll click and drag. It gives me a continuous line. I don't want that. So when you want to draw more than one part of a character, you can click and drag, and give a line like this. Press Command Control, click on the screen, and then click and drag to draw somewhere else. So that is how we will trace this character in Illustrator. And just to get a little bit more practice here, let's go and move over to one of the hands here. And I'm going to make sure once again I have no fill. And we'll start with this glove here. So I'll just click and I'll drag. And we'll continue to draw his hand. I'm going to change directions here. So I'm going to click and drag, click and drag. And I'm going to change direction. I'm going to go this way. Now, like I said, I never worry about matching it too much. And I click and drag, and click and drag, and so on until we have the glove completed. There is no right and wrong with these techniques, and with practice you'll know which way to click and drag the mouse. And we can give this glove a fill if we wish, or we can go right ahead and start to draw the lines. And once again, I held down that Control Command key. Now I'm back to my arrow, or my pen tool rather, and I'll click and drag, and we'll click and drag, and we'll get the parts for the hand. I'll select the entire glove, and we'll give it a nice color as well, to maybe to match the boots. And now we have our hand.